Yo, can you see me? Thank you, Leonard, for coming on. I was late because I can't figure out how to work my stuff, as always. Good morning, Saturday. No baseball today. After all of this huge amounts of baseball, now we have none for the whole weekend, which is no fun at all. I was really disappointed when I found out there was no games today, but I'm wearing my San Diego hat and that's part of the reason why I was late today. But it was very important to me to find this hat. And we have like 300 hats in this house, and you'll never find what you're looking for. And so anyway, I found the hat. It was my biggest goal of the day. And now we're here talking baseball. Good morning to you guys. Thanks for coming and thanks for hanging out. Eddie's here. We were worried about you, Eddie. We felt bad like harassing you about why you weren't here, but we felt like we got to call Eddie and find out where he's been. Okay. Stardog's here. The Shaman's here. Nice to see you. Gallo, Alcola, a couple of guests, Mimi, and oh, look, Guest Williams. That's a boy's name. Normally we have girls' guest names. The reason that I did that is so that men don't like having women's names. So I figure it would be a good way to get people to sign up to the website. Daniel, nice to see you too. Let's get going. What about San Diego? How fun is that? How fun is San Diego? And I know that people get so annoyed at these youngsters and their bat flips, and I just can't even imagine getting annoyed at bat flip, because that's just part of, I mean, I could understand as a pitcher getting annoyed at a bat flip, but only because I'm annoyed that this hitter just did something off of one of my pitches that made him want to bat flip, right? So, but to knock these kids or to knock these baseball players or any athlete for actually doing very well and playing like to the highest level, it's just ridiculous. So, I mean, I think that they always say it's like the old school, people that don't like bat flips. They like to go by the traditional ways that baseball's played. Like there's some kind of unwritten rule for all kinds of shit. But the fact that you're not supposed to steal bases if you're ahead by too many runs, and that's like being ahead like 5 runs or 6 runs, and then you're in the bottom of the 8th, and then you decide not to steal a base, even though you can and you should. And all of a sudden they win the game because they get a bunch of runs in the 9th inning. And how do you feel then? You're like happy because you're politically correct and you're socially correct and all of this? No, you want to win the game. So I say kudos to the San Diego team. That is, I mean, how fun. The fact that all my teams in the playoff league, like my whole team is gone. So I didn't draft a lot of players who are left at this point, but what are you going to do? The playoff league is fun. I think although I didn't mean to make the playoff league no reserves, thank goodness I did make it no reserves on accident. But at that point I couldn't change it because I always am dealing with some issue in Fantrax. I think it's just the sheer amount of options that you have in Fantrax that something's going to throw you off. You're not going to see something, and then all of a sudden it's draft time and you're maxed out, even though you're supposed to have 18 players. I maxed you out at 13 players because for whatever reason, I didn't see it. Anyway, every year from now on, there will be no reserve players, because if you hoard, like if you get injured players, or you want to hoard players because you have 5 extra spots, and we only had 11 out of 12 teams. So it would have been even more difficult to find players if, the reserves, because immediately after the draft, people just started picking up players like DK Lush. I was like, DK Lush, Malpal went, I'm trying to pick up players immediately, and people beat me to it because they had their hand on the button. As soon as the draft ended, they had their hand on the button. They were ready to get players. So I do think it's a good idea in a playoff league to just only have the amount of players that you can have active on your roster. If somebody goes down, you can replace them. But other than that, like, no hoarding players. One bit of sad news, obviously, is that Bob Gibson passed away. And it's like one of those things where you're really sad, but you have this great feeling because he was such a good example of baseball. He was just such an excellent, like, he battled, he stood up for himself. He was playing in a period that was actually really racist, and he had to overcome a lot to get where he was, even though he was a special athlete. I learned a bunch of stuff about him just to prepare for this show. Obviously I wasn't around then, but I didn't realize some of the great things that he did, and the fact that he was just like, I wonder at this point, after all that I've learned about him, who would I choose if I had to choose like one pitcher in baseball history to be on my team, to pitch game 1 or game 5 or whatever it is, the most important game. This guy is unbeatable. I mean, he would say stuff like Trevor Bauer. He'd be like, I just wasn't going to let him beat me. That's all there is to it. They just weren't going to beat me. And so taking that attitude out on the mound, he struck out 17 batters in game 1 of the 1968 World Series. I think it was the World Series. It was a playoff of, I'm sure it was the World Series in 1968 against Detroit, 17 strikeouts. This guy had 255 complete games. Can you even imagine that these days? Like, that just doesn't even happen. There's just first of all, getting a complete game or pitching a complete game is like, it's extinct at this point. Okay. That's the best way I could put it. It's extinct. And apparently he was a very nice man, really just easy, down to earth, humble, but very hard. Like he said when he was elected into the Hall of Fame, he said, I know for sure. I mean, maybe I didn't always have my best stuff when I went out there, but I always had 100%. I gave 100% every time I went out on the mound. It's like, there's only a few players that you can see, that you see that day in and day out. They actually lowered the mound because of this guy after 1968. He was 22-9, and you say to yourself, like, how did he lose 9 games? Because his ERA was like 1.3 or something like that. It was super low. And even when he pitched in those games that he lost, it's like Jacob deGrom. This is the only reason he lost is because he got no run support. That's for sure, because his ERA in the games that he lost was still right at barely 2. So he had 7 consecutive World Series wins. I think that is still the record to this day. And he spent 17 seasons with the Cardinals. And, it's kind of like, how often do you see that? How often do you see a player that's just iconic, that goes down, that retires the same team that they were drafted with? And he was actually a Harlem Globetrotter, and they said, we're ready for you to quit basketball and actually come and give 100% to baseball. And that's what he did, and he never looked back. And last night, Yadier Molina is another one. Tony Gwynn is another one. Since we're talking about, Padres today a lot, Tony Gwynn is another one that just the Padres fans will never, ever forget him, what he did for that team. This is exactly like Bob Gibson. The Cardinals organization, you could tell that they're devastated. Yachty couldn't even speak. He was just crying. I'm sure that some of that had to do with the fact that I'm sure it was emotional because they just lost. Okay. They're out of the playoffs. So that's kind of sad. Usually they don't cry out in public about that, but then put on top of that, losing an icon, a hero. The Cardinals is one of the best, maybe, as far as organizations go, the Cardinals have always been an outstanding, exceptional organization. And anyway, the fact that this guy passed away, it's sad. He was 85. His life was great. And so I don't feel horribly sad, although I do feel like crying because it's just what baseball is all about. It's why you say to yourself, this is why I love baseball, because of players, pitchers, whatever, people like this guy. So I'll just say rest in peace, and nobody's going to forget you. That's for sure. What's his name on MLB? He's big friends with Bob Gibson. Black guy on MLB. Lenny, who am I talking about? Harold. He was talking about going over to Bob Gibson's house for dinner, and he was so nervous when he actually got to meet him for the first time, and that's pretty funny. But he cooked dinner for him. This guy Bob Gibson had a train in his house that he built, and it literally like a whole train that just like went all around his house. That's what he did in his off time. That's what he did for fun as a hobby. Anyway, let's talk about the fact that regardless of how you finish in the league this year, you have to admit, I think, unless you just didn't compete all season, because maybe I know that there's teams out there, there's people out there that got stuck with just an injured team right off the bat. Like they didn't stand a chance. And they just, not that they did anything wrong, but right from the beginning, they were set back. That's kind of how I felt in labor, because I never had less than 6 injured players at a time in that league. So unless you're that guy, you have to really say that this was for fantasy reasons. I mean, for season-long fantasy, it was just a sense of excitement that you don't ever get normally. And I hope that we can keep some of these things next year. Like, I do love expanded playoffs. I don't know for sure that it's right to only go like best of 3, because that doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really shape like who the best team is. Minnesota is a perfect example. What's wrong?
You're muffled.
Oh, I'm muffled. Oh my, how about this? I bet you that's better. Thanks for telling me. Nobody told me. I wasn't reading the chat room, so I know exactly why it was happening. My microphone was stuck inside my collar. Thank you, Leonard. Crap. All of that for nothing. So anyway, am I muffled still? Tell me if I'm muffled. Harold Reynolds, that's right. But can you guys hear me better, or am I still muffled? I would like to know. I don't think the best of 3 is a good idea. The Minnesota Twins, the Miami Marlins got in because of this. That's fine, but sound is muffled when you move your mic or something. Okay, so I think I might have fixed it because I had it stuck inside my collar. But I hope that let me see, make sure it's plugged in good. Sound is good. Okay, thanks. Okay, it's better, right? And I think that it was doing that because every time I moved my head, it was stuck inside my collar. So thank you for helping me out. Let's just get on over this. The poor Twins. I mean, it's not that the Twins would have even won anyways. They've never win. They've lost 17 straight playoff games. 17 straight. Like, they're the opposite of the Miami Marlins. But I still feel like they were the number 2 in the American League. They had performed all season. And so to take that away after just 2 games is quite, I don't know, that's hard for baseball. It just doesn't feel right. But I do like more teams. I do love the fact that we just like jammed them all into like a couple days, and you had baseball from like noon to midnight one day or 2 days. It was just so fun. I really liked it. I mean, I don't watch basketball, and there was like 3 or 4 different sports going on at the same time. How is basketball still going on? Like, they started their playoffs before COVID. They started their playoffs. I think they started their playoffs before COVID, or they were like right there getting ready to do the playoffs. It's freaking, months later, and they're still, what takes so long for basketball to just get it done? So they're still going. I know that. Yeah, they're starting pitching, although they did make an attempt to like get some depth in their starting pitching. It seems like Rich Hill was injured most of the season, and Pineda was out because he's suspended. Their pitching, other than that, is not that good. Although I will say Jose Berrios is somebody to watch. Next year, I am going to target him because I think that his price is going to be super low. And you really saw some great moments with Berrios. Like, I think he's ready to just bust out. I think he's ready to be one of the better pitchers in the American League. And so the Reds, I don't like the fact that the Reds got pushed out that fast, but I mean, the fact that they were even in the playoffs to begin with, because their record was so horrible for most of the season that they might, I mean, one could argue that they don't even deserve to be in there. So here we go. It is on. It is going to be the Dodgers against the Padres, the biggest nightmare for Padres. And the Padres, I just happened to see on Twitter a video of the tailgate party that they had outside. I'm assuming that it was outside of the park. When the Padres beat the Cardinals, they went crazy in the parking lot. It was like a college football game type thing. You know, everybody, I'm sure, was out there having beers and whatever. It was really fun to see all the fans out there, like, still supporting their team, even though they couldn't go to the game and be inside. They could actually be there and do whatever. So, I mean, I thought that was really fun. And the fans of the Padres are just, they're not fair weather fans, because if they were, the Padres just wouldn't even have any fans. So anyway, I don't think it was ideal that, like, the Brewers made it to the playoffs, which they didn't even get above 500. It's not ideal that the Astros made the playoffs. They finished below 500 too. And then to upset the Twins, a team that really did do very well, tied for second best record in the American League. Okay, so that's fine. That's the downside of it. But how exciting was it? Okay. The poor Twins, I mean, they're like just jinxed. They're going to have to, who knows, this jinx could last for so long, just because, like, going into the playoffs every year, like, we try so hard to get to the playoffs and we can't even win a game. So we're going to root for the Twins again next year. I think his name is Kirilloff. He was pretty exciting to watch. Let's talk about the Marlins beating out Chicago. You just got to love that. The Marlins beat the Cubs 2-0 to take the series. Boxberger got the win. Darvish got the loss. Kinsler, he's underrated closer, but he doesn't strike that many batters out, although he did strike out the side yesterday to get the saves. And the Marlins swept the Cubbies. I believe they swept them, yeah. So Darvish did go. This wasn't really Darvish's fault. He struck out 6. He pitched through 6 2/3, 5 hits, and 2 earned runs. But Marlins are the opposite of the Twins. Like I said already, they won the first postseason since they clinched the World Series in 2003. But they're 7-0 all time in the postseason, and they're still the only team to never lose a playoff series. Not only that, but I think that the only other times they made it to the playoffs, they won the World Series. So is it a possibility that who's the Marlins going up now against? Atlanta. So it'll be I believe it's the Marlins against Atlanta and the Dodgers against San Diego starting Monday. So the Cubbies are just horrible. Ever since they won the World Series, it's like they've lost 9 of 13 games since winning the 2016 World Series. That's the Cubbies in the postseason. The playoff statistics since the start of the postseason in 2017, okay? 13 games in the postseason. Javier Baez is hitting 103 with only 3 extra base hits and 16 strikeouts. Chris Bryant batting 167, okay, with 3 RBIs and 19 strikeouts. And Rizzo is batting 122 with 2 extra base hits, 1 run, and 17 strikeouts. These guys are just, what the hell? They just forget how to hit. Well, I already know Javier Baez's problem, which I knew going into the season. And if I drafted him, I deserve anything. I mean, I had to expect this. When a guy strikes out as much as Javi Baez, eventually that is going to catch up with him, because even if it doesn't catch up with them for a while, some guys are able to hide that. Like when I figured out that Javi Baez strikes out 30% of the time or something crazy like that, I was surprised, because you just assume that when a guy has a batting average of 280 or his batting average was not a red flag by any stretch of the word. So if you didn't look close and you didn't dig deep, you would not even notice that he strikes out all this. So, but Javi Baez, it was bound to catch up with him eventually, and the fact that it did catch up with him this year, it doesn't surprise me. I think that's why Javi Baez is not drafted in the first round, even though his stats over the past few years have been pretty good. He's really fun to watch. He's great defensively, and he has a lot of personality. I like watching him, but I'm not going to draft him anymore. I'm really not. He is obviously we are starting to see the real true plate discipline with him because of the fact that he strikes out so much, and I don't think at this point he's willing to change it. So the Cubbies are just absolutely horrible in the playoffs. So the Marlins, they made 174 roster moves this season in 60 games, 174 roster moves, and they used 61 players, and only 5 players spent the entire season on the active roster. 5. In July, the Marlins were the first team to have the COVID attack. Okay. They had 16 players, 16 tested positive for COVID. They had a 10-4 record and 7 in a 10-4 record and 7 inning doubleheaders. They were 21-25 all other games. Sixto Sanchez is somebody that is, as a rookie, you just don't see, and they really, if any team needed a pitcher like this guy, dude, it was the Marlins. And he threw 7 pitches at over 100 miles, or at, I think it was 99 miles an hour or higher, 7 pitches in yesterday's game. That's tied with Nathan Eovaldi for the 4th most by a starter in a postseason game in the pitch tracking era, ever since they started tracking pitches, which was 2008. He's the only, okay, there's a couple other guys with more 100-mile-an-hour pitches in a postseason game than Sixto Sanchez. There's only 3. Noah Syndergaard, Justin Verlander, and Yordano Ventura. DeGrom did something too. He had 30 most 99-mile-an-hour plus pitches in a game, any game. That would be Jacob DeGrom last season. He had 30 in one game. Gosh. Well, this Sixto Sanchez, he had 27 versus the Cubbies. At 22 years and 64 days old, Sixto Sanchez is the 2nd youngest pitcher in Marlins history to start a potential postseason clincher. And there was one younger, it was Dontrelle Willis, who was 21 years old and 265 days in 2003 National League Division Series Game 4, which the Marlins did win also. The Marlins, you got to root for the Marlins. I don't care. I'm not a Derek Jeter fan, but I am rooting for the Marlins fans, the ones that paid for the ballpark, the ones that have been screwed out of any kind of competition, like ever since they started paying for the ballpark. Think of all the billions. It costs so much money to build a brand new ballpark, and these taxpayers, they paid for it. And they were promised by paying for this that they would have a team that could compete, that they would build a team. And there's nothing worse for a fan than a team that just won't try to compete, right? It's just a big point of frustration for fans, especially when they're paying for the ballpark. Okay. And so I'm happy for them, but I can't root for them over the Padres. The Padres, if you watch the Padres, right? If you watch the passion, you watch these youngsters, you watch like Will Myers, okay? A guy that I have never believed in until just the last couple years, I've started coming around with Will Myers, especially when I figured out, like when Lenny had a trivia question one day, it was before this season started. He was like, what National League hitter has stole so many bases and hit so many home runs since like 2016 or something? And the answer was Will Myers. It was like, who? I can't put it in the chat if you remember that trivia question, because that was like, whoa, are you kidding me? Will Myers has actually done this, because every year he's like, he comes really close to 2020. Like he hits okay, but he's got problems. And for fantasy owners, he's most of the time, he's not even like, he's drafted, but he's not on anybody's target. Like, I'm going to target Will Myers, except for Lenny. Lenny's been targeting him since he became a Padre, which was in 2015. I saw an interview. He was on MLB TV talking about the team and stuff. And did he play third base? Because they didn't have. Did he play third base? I know he plays first base and outfield. I'm just like, he hit 2 home runs the other day, making him and Tatis like the first duo on a team to hit 2 home runs in the same game since Babe Ruth and I can't remember. It was Babe Ruth and some other guy. Okay. Well, anyway, the Padres went all in. They went all in. They decided they were going to get Clevenger. That was an amazing move. I mean, especially for Padres fans. How can you not love that? They went out to get Clevenger. They have Lamet. They were like Paddock, everything. They had a decent, deep bullpen. Pomeranz, I don't even know for sure that Pomeranz gave up an earned run all season. Like, I said to Malpal one day just recently, like, this guy I don't think he has an earned run. I think his ERA is 0. Is he fantasy relevant? I don't know. It depends on your league, and what you get points for, but he's, he doesn't get saves. He very rarely gets wins, maybe no wins, but he's solid. As in the bullpen, he's really solid. So, game 2 is what I want to talk about. So the Padres actually, game 1 was really stressful for them because I think they were down 4-0 in the first inning of the first game. I think I have it in my list. Let's just go through my notes here. The Cardinals are, so I talk about Mike Clevenger. I talk about Dinelson Lamet. These guys are hurt. Mike Clevenger's hurt. They don't even need Mike Clevenger at this point. I really would love to see Mike Clevenger healthy if these guys can make it to the World Series, though. I mean, for real, it would be so disappointing, but Clevenger is good at getting back to business. I don't know for sure if his season is still hopeful or not. That's iffy, but they were down 4-0 in the first inning of game 1, and they just fought back. The Cardinals are 1-65 all time when trailing by 3 or more runs entering the 8th inning in the postseason. That they did. They won 1 game. That was in 2011 World Series. The Cardinals, they were shut out 3 times in the final 7 games, including regular season. And the Padres' first postseason win in the last 22 years. They won consecutive games in the postseason for the first time since a 5-game win streak from the Game 3 in 1998. That was the National League Division Series. No, okay, so they went through 9 pitchers yesterday. Nine pitchers. And no San Diego pitcher has thrown more than 2 1/3 innings in the series. 14 of 19 runs in the series were scored in the 5th inning or later. So they're just like comeback kings, okay? Jack Flaherty got the loss, but he didn't pitch bad. I mean, he actually threw a 97.6 mile an hour fastball, was the fastest pitch. That was to Hosmer, and that was last night the fastest pitch all season for Flaherty. So what do you do with Flaherty next year? Where's he going to – this guy was right up there in the top with pitchers being drafted this year. He must have been being drafted in like the top maybe 5 pitchers, maybe top 3 pitchers, top 4 pitchers. Flaherty was really – I mean, him and Walker Buehler, I don't know what to do about either one next year. This is why I don't really try to target guys that have very little experience. When they come and they have such a great season, like Flaherty had such an awesome season. Walker Buehler had such an awesome season. These guys just don't have enough experience to be confident that they're going to come back and actually like that's really what they have, because it takes a little while for hitters to start to figure out pitchers. And it happens all the time. Same thing with batters. Pitchers will figure you out. And if you don't make adjustments, you will not continue to be good. So they will find and they will totally target your, your faults, your downsides, like where your holes are. They will find that. They will, what, I can't think of the word that's coming to my mind, but whatever it is, they will find it. They will target it. They will try to take advantage of it. But look, Flaherty in the playoffs has been good. He has a 2.37 ERA and 24 strikeouts in 19 innings in 3 National League Division Series starts. So he's good in the playoffs. He's solid, but he wasn't good all season. Okay, the Padres, back to the 9 pitchers. 9 pitchers in 9 innings, which they combined to completely shut out the Cardinals. That's the most pitchers in a 9-inning shutout since at least 1901. Regular season or postseason, doesn't matter. There was one point in the game where the Padres, it was a clear changing point. It was like a clear spot in the game where it was no longer like it was the Padres going. And it was when Colton Wong made an error. I think in the 7th inning, I don't know for sure the inning, but there was an error by Colton Wong. There was a bad throw in that inning. Somebody scored a run. That's when the game tide. That was when this tide shifted. And I think that the momentum that the Padres had at that point, they just took advantage of it and they won. So that's really awesome. The White Sox are done, which is kind of sad, but Oakland is another team that you have to be excited for. They don't get a lot of, they always seem like they have a decent team. They're obviously Moneyball. They don't spend a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money, whatever that is. I think all teams have money if they want to, they could. But it seems, that Oakland is the king of the Moneyball team. And Oakland, though, does seem to make it work. Now that they have hitters on that team that are solid, like Matt Olson. But what's up with Matt Olson? I don't know if I can really... when Matt Olson and Matt Chapman first came to the league, like Lenny was like, draft Matt Olson or Matt Chapman. I'm like, they have bad batting averages. Their batting averages are horrible. Maybe they'll get better as they mature or whatever. And for sure they have gotten better, but for sure they're not acceptable at all. Matt Olson had a ton of home runs, but if you take a look at his batting average, it is way below the Mendoza line. It is not okay if you are playing in Roto League, because the batting average is something that is so easy to overlook when you're just looking for home runs and stolen bases and the flashy stuff, and you finish last in batting average, which I did again this year. Okay, I do it every year. I don't want to do it, but I think that this is such an important part of Roto, to make sure that you do not neglect batting average or on base percentage, whichever the two that you use. WHIP is another one that's easy to neglect. It's really easy to neglect WHIP when you don't penalize for walks. You don't really notice them as much. You're paying attention to the innings, the strikeouts, the wins. But the walks will hurt you, and the walks actually say a lot about the quality of the pitcher. Like, your goal is to keep runners off the base paths. And if you, regardless of whether or not they score, eventually they're going to score if you continue to let them on, Yes, rest in peace. Hi, Rottweiler. Nice to see you, dude. Nice to see you, Big Al. Good. So, Flaherty is a top 10, no doubt, next year. But why? Did he impress you? Did you have him on any of your teams this year? Oh, okay. Well, let me fix it. God. Thank you. Did you have him on your team or what? Where is Lenny in the stands in Oakland? We were there just last year. Is it bad still? Because I will try to fix it. Flaherty. Okay, so you did have him on your team. Tell me how you feel about him. No, I don't think so. I don't think you had him. His ERA was 4.91. He was 4-3. 40 innings pitched. He made 9 starts, so I have to assume let's look at his game log. He only made 9 starts. Okay, so and it doesn't even look like he missed any time because he pitched 3 in August. He pitched 5 in September. If he did miss any, it was the beginning of August. He must have missed. He went from July 24th to August 19th without any starts. So there you go. He missed some time. Maybe that's because the Cardinals just didn't play games during that time. So tell me why. What happened to Flaherty that caused him to be so bad? His ERA is literally 4.91 on the season. Yes, he sucked when you needed him to play well. And it's hard to trust him going into next season because now you have 2018, he was pretty good. Actually, he was definitely above average, okay? And he doesn't give up a lot of hits. Like in 2018, he only allowed 108 hits on 151 innings pitched. That is really good. If you can get your hits below your innings pitched, it's a good sign, right? In 2019, when he had an excellent season, his ERA was under 3. He only allowed 135 hits and 196 innings. So like he was ready. I think he was ready completely to pitch a full season. He already had 196 innings the year before. So he was like primed to go. But okay, but what happened to him? So this year is an anomaly for most, and I don't really, it's that definitely can be argued about, like how much do you put into this season's stats. However, when I don't have a good reason for a pitcher, like if I can't explain why, like with Yelich, I've yet to figure out, I haven't done a lot of research into it yet, but I will. I want to know why he hit so bad. I'm not okay with just accepting the fact that you have the best hitter in baseball, arguably, who basically didn't hit at all. If you could tell me why he didn't hit or what, besides the COVID season, like I can't blame COVID for that big of a drop off in talent. Yes, he did. Actually, Flaherty did pitch well. And like I said, he's pitched well he's definitely pitched well in the postseason. I'm just not paying top dollar. I'm not paying Bauer. What am I going to pay for Bauer? I'm willing to pay. Okay. And then Bauer's going to have a horrible season, but he's going to get paid. We know that Bauer is going to get paid. And so I was thinking like 30 is a lot of money to pay a pitcher for one season. But now that I was talking about it yet the other day in the chat room, I was thinking, man, maybe they're right. Somebody said he's going to get paid 35 million because Bauer will not sign more than a 1-year contract. And I believe that is going to be true 100% because of the fact that he pitched so good. Like if he didn't pitch well, I would say it's kind of like, how are you going to pass that up if you didn't pitch well, right? Bauer, let's say he did the same shit that he always does. Like he has some great games and you know the talent's there, but he just doesn't come through. He walks batters. He gets like right off the bat, he starts, getting behind in the count. He doesn't know which pitch to throw, whatever it is. He tinkers too much. Let's say that Bauer didn't do what he did this year and he came out and he pitched the same as he did in 2019. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if he chose to take a multi-year contract and go against his commitment to only signing for 1 year. Like him and his friend made a bet. If he signs longer than a year contract, then his friend gets to shoot him in the balls with a paint gun or something really, I think it was a paintball gun. Paintball gun. And I don't think that his friend would do that to him, but I think that, when you make a bet with your friend, whatever, here's the thing. If he didn't pitch well last year, I wouldn't blame him for going against it and taking it back. Like, if you're going to pay me 20 million for the next 5 or 6 years, then I got to take it because who knows. But the fact that he pitched so good, I'm super excited to see what he's going to get. Teams are going to offer it. I'm just afraid he's going to end up on the Yankees. And that will just It will just be horrible. Although it will get me to Yankee Stadium because I will go there, and I think that I like Bauer more than I hate the Yankees, if you can imagine that. I like Bauer more than I hate the Yankees. Bauer to LA. I think they sign him in Cincinnati. I really do. Wherever he goes, he's he's not going to throw his elbow out. I really don't believe that he'll throw his elbow out. That's one thing about him, that his whole entire life, he's really focused a lot on the fact that he uses that works out with. I don't want to get muffled again. Let me make sure I'm fixed. The elbow shoulder tube that he has, that he uses, that everybody makes fun of him, that is part of the reason why he doesn't get hurt, because he feels like in order to start throwing, you have to get your shoulder stretched out before you start throwing. Most people just start throwing to get stretched out. He also feels like every person is different as far as their like what their workout plan should be. Everybody should have a personalized workout plan that's catered just to their style of pitching. That he's been, I mean, and the fact that we're talking about Bob Gibson today, and you talk about guys like Nolan Ryan and pitchers that threw 200 and something complete games, and they threw 150 pitches per game or whatever it is. There was no pitch limit. Nowadays, we raise pitchers to be, I'm sorry, there's probably a better word, but in my opinion, they're just weak. If you don't, like if I went out and tried to jog a mile right now, I would never make it. I would have to walk. Okay, I would make the mile, but I would have to walk. But if I went out and trained every day and I got good at running a little bit more and a little bit more every day until I worked my way up to 1 mile, then I would be able to do that then, because your body is able to do whatever it is that you teach it to do. So like you have to work your way up to it, but there's no reason why Bauer can't continue to be the pitcher on a few days rest, like 4 days rest. He doesn't care. He'll be like, I will pitch the whole game for sure. And he's been reliable for that. And I love that. I think that's great. Flaherty threw like 115 pitches yesterday, and he looked good. And like I said, his fastest pitch of the season was to Hosmer yesterday, who, by the way, Hosmer, Malpal, what's the name? What's the name that you, Bauer to the Angels. The Angels keep trying to, but until they do solidify their pitching, they will never, ever get there. And so far, they've done really a good job at paying top dollar for hitters like Albert Pujols, which, I mean, the Cardinals didn't even want to sign him for what they signed him for, which actually he's not really letting them that down. He's actually living up to his contract fairly well. So is Miguel Cabrera, which these two contracts were like, at the time, it was not even, I was like, they're probably going to have to they're going to DH before they're going to have 3 years left on their contract. They're going to be DH because they're not going to be able to, they're going to be that old. But Bauer to the Angels. Yeah. I mean, Mike Trout is getting to the side of his career. I mean, this poor guy deserves to get in the playoffs at least. Poor Mike Trout. But, they got Rendon, they have Trout, and I do see them building up their hitting, but what the hell? They have not addressed their pitching. So, okay, Lenny versus Andrea. You would think that I would win that, but Lenny's actually beat me around the bases, and that's because I let him win. But Lenny, I got to let you win sometimes, because masculinity is important. Still important. You win, Leonard. Stardog says he wasn't going to run this morning at all, but the cops started chasing him, so he ran. I mean, for whatever reason, I don't think Bauer and Cole like each other. No, they don't. They have never liked each other, and this is part of the reason why I'm not a fan of Cole, even though I totally admit the fact that I don't know Cole. I've never heard anything bad about him as a person. Obviously, he's a great pitcher. They pitched together at UCLA. Cole did not like the way that Bauer did his thing. He didn't like the shoulder tube. He felt like Bauer wasn't part of the team because he did his own way of working out. And that caused Bauer a lot of problems. In fact, the manager that he had when he went to Arizona was a manager that then went to Seattle. Oh, what's his name? What's a Seattle guy that likes to trade everybody? Anyway, he was the manager. When Bauer with Arizona Diamondbacks, when he got drafted by them, it was basically an understanding that they were going to allow Bauer to do, the way that he's done his entire life. And as soon as he came up to the majors, that manager left, and then he got stuck with that Colin Terry. Who's the Mets guy? They did not get along at all. Bauer and him did not get along. Bauer did not really mesh with anybody. So it was like a question mark of Bauer and his attitude and whether or not anybody was going to like him. But it was kind of the same in college, where Bauer was just kind of he's like a geeky stat, like an engineering whatever math guy, and kind of not really kind of socially awkward and stuff, never really fit in that great, got teased a lot and as he grew up. But that made him I'm sorry, but that just made him stronger. So nobody hopes for their kid to get picked on, but in a lot of ways it can be it could be good, because then you actually have some grit and you can like deal with things that don't go your way. Anyway, Cole and him did not get along. They got into a huge fight at UCLA. They were number 1 and number 2. And so Bauer has always been like in Garrett Cole's shadow a little bit, because Garrett Cole, as soon as he went to Houston, it was on. Bauer wished that he would have been in Houston, because he always has talked even though he's the one that called out the Astros for cheating, he really respected the Astros, the way that they used the machines, the TrackMan machines and stuff. He's got a house in Texas. And I think that if the Houston Astros ask him to come there, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm mostly excited about how much is he going to get paid. Can he possibly be the highest paid pitcher ever for a season? I think so. Like, I definitely think so. I think by far he will. That's probably not even a question. All right, let's move on here. What are we talking about? Flaherty lost, even though he pitched through 6 innings, struck out 8. The Padres used 9 pitchers. They combined to shut out the Cardinals. That hasn't happened since 1901. And then I have in my notes here the White Sox and the Athletics. Entering Wednesday, there had never been a 9-inning postseason games where both teams combined to use as many as 17 pitchers. And then it happened twice in one day. The White Sox A's and the Cardinals Padres had 17 combined pitchers in each game. So does that say something for the direction of the pitching landscape in our game of baseball? For sure it says something. And we've been seeing this happening over the past several years, that like they're not pitching as many, a quality start still requires 6 innings. And I mean, quality start is basically extinct because of that, because not a lot of pitchers are going 6 innings. And if they do, it's like once in a while they'll go 6 or 7 innings. And there's a couple pitchers that consistently go late into games, but it's becoming fewer and further in between. And even this rule that they made where you had to face 3 batters, every reliever has to face 3 batters, which makes it even more interesting to me that they were able to go, that they were able to use 9 pitchers in 9 innings and 17 pitchers combined. That's crazy. Okay. The team to use 9 pitchers in a 9-inning postseason games, 3 of them happened in 2020. 1 happened in 2019 and 1 happened in 2013. And the 2 that weren't this year was the Tampa Bay Rays That was the American League Division Series Game 4 in 2013 and Game 5 in 2019. They didn't win either of those games, but the Padres and the Padres, it happened twice. They won in Game 2 and 3. So the Padres didn't sweep, looks like, because they played 3. Wait. 2 and 3. No, they didn't. They couldn't have swept if they played 3 games. The NL Wild Card Series Game 2 and the NL Wild Card Series Game 3. Is that possible that they used 9 pitchers in 9 innings for both of those 2 games? Tell me. Jerry Dipoto, that's right. I believe Greinke is on the autism spectrum. I heard in the past more in line with Asperger's, where he lacks social skills, but he sure can pitch, and that's true. You know, have you ever listened to a post-game interview with Greinke? The last time he did one, probably. This is probably the time he did one. So clearly, it was last year when he was pitching for the Houston Astros that he was in the postseason, and they interviewed him after the game, and he was just, it was like the worst. He just basically didn't say anything, and they just kept asking him questions, and he just say, I don't know. I didn't really think about it. Like, oh no, this was going into the game. It was like a pre-game interview with the media talking about what's this other team's like biggest, what are you worried about the most with these hitters? It was almost like he didn't even study the lineup at all on the other team. He isn't a very social guy. But do you remember when Greinke first started to be fantasy relevant? And the rumor was that Greinke had anger issues, like he had social issues, that he had depression, that he just mentally he didn't have a full deck of cards, right? Like mentally he just couldn't stand the pressure. He wouldn't be good in Yankees. I remember hearing he wouldn't be good in New York because he just isn't built for the New York media or the fans or whatever. And Greinke just straight up proved everybody wrong right off the bat. He's been underrated in fantasy forever. And like, I don't know if it's too late really to cash in on Greinke. I think that at this point it's caught up. But the point is Greinke, I don't care if he doesn't have to be like the most social guy. I don't care. Just go out there and pitch. That's your job. Go out there and just. Do you remember when Puig and Greinke got into a big old fight it was like the Dodgers tour travel bus, and where you put your suitcases in the side where all the storage is, and apparently Puig, it was either, did Greinke throw Puig's suitcase out on the ground or Puig threw Greinke? I think that Greinke's so annoyed at Puig. It's kind of like when you have a puppy and a full, a mature dog and a puppy, and the puppy just drives the other dog just nuts because the puppy's always like up in his face, and like Puig had no sense of personal space at all. Like he had no concept of that, and he would lick people's faces and stuff. And Greinke, they did not get along. That's the bottom line. Lack social skills, yes. So yeah, whatever it is, I don't care if you're not, I don't care. I would much rather somebody just be themselves. And I don't think that it's a lot of people say that it's part of your job to talk to the media. It's part of your job to sign autographs. It's part of your job to like interact with the fans and the media. And I say, I don't think it really is. I mean, it's nice when you do. But it seems like the players that get a bad rap with the media, and like Brian, who was the guy that played second base for the Reds for quite a few years, Brandon Phillips. He just didn't get along with the media. They were not nice to him. They wrote things that was not fair to him, and he knew that. But he was super nice to Lenny, and he was very nice, just nice guy in general. Seemed that he, like when Lenny interviewed him, he was just happy because he didn't feel like the media was out to get him. there's a lot of examples of this where, like Bauer, for instance, like he didn't really get a good rap from the media too, because he got into fights on Twitter, whatever. He just, you know what? He says it like it is. I mean, more people need to be doing that, because that's just, it's better. It's better to just put it out there. And Mike Trout is humble, very, he does intentionally stay out of the limelight. Kershaw, the same thing with Kershaw, just a player that you just have a lot of respect for, because they don't ever get involved in the drama, you know. They're not like Blake Snell, who, you know, but Blake Snell, I don't really, I'm not going to blame, seriously, I take back what I just said about Blake Snell, because even though I don't like his tone of voice, I don't really like that, but he was playing a video game with his friends, and he was not really meaning to get on the front page of a magazine. He just was talking about how he felt, and the truth, you know, the truth is what it is. I wish you, whatever. I'm not going to hold that against him. So anyway, there is going to be some World Series going on. There is going to be some fandom. There's fans in the ballpark. I'm super happy for this. The fact that it's in Texas, which is the brand new ballpark for Globe, I think Globe Life, wasn't their last park called Globe Life too? Anyway, Texas has a brand new ballpark. The owner spent however much money in this ballpark. They haven't had any fans all season. So it's nice that the Texas Rangers ballpark gets some use out of it. They're going to have the NL Division Series, or the NL Championship Series, and the World Series there. And I think that the other playoffs, where's that one going to be? I can't remember. Dodger Stadium, I want to say. That's just weird, though. Why? Anyway, they're going to sell 28% capacity for the games. They're going to have pods where, like, you could go and you're going to get a group of tickets for that pod. This is something that really, why not do this way more often? Even when COVID isn't a thing, you get like a little area where you can sit with your friends and family. You get 20 tickets or whatever for that pod, like for that area. It's like a bunch of suites, you know, just like have a little area, because the worst thing about going to a baseball game is being crowded, being stuck next to a stranger where you're like sitting so close to them that you're touching shoulders, right? I would rather sit in the third level and not have to worry about this, okay? I don't really, like, that's just my personality. Lenny, on the other hand, will sit right behind home plate. He doesn't care if he's elbow to elbow with somebody, because he doesn't drink beer, which means he doesn't have to get up and go, which is why I like the aisle seat, and which is why I like to be able to get up without bothering anybody. And you can't get that in the front. So the fact that you know, the tickets go on sale Tuesday. I wonder how much they're going to cost. If they're going to be more expensive than a normal World Series game, which is very expensive anyway, it'll be interesting to see if people, if there's a big demand for these tickets, because you have to think that no matter if you're allowed to go to the ballpark, are people going to want to go to the ballpark? Are people really going to want and feel safe? Or do they want to go through the hassle of standing in line, getting their temperature checked, going through all of these hoops and stuff? But all in all, baseball has, not hurt. The baseball is not hurt over the COVID season. In fact, if anything, it turns out that it worked out really pretty good. I don't know what football is going to do, because they don't have the opportunity like baseball does. Like now they're already making up games, and you only have one bye week in football. You can't just make up and have like 3-quarter games or whatever they do in football. 3-quarter, like 7-inning doubleheaders. You can't do that in football. But the baseball season was a success. They did run into some problems, which was to be expected, and teams missed games. The Cardinals, very frustrating, especially in head-to-head. It was frustrating, but all in all, they managed to get it together. They managed to stay relatively healthy, and nobody died. Thank goodness. That would have been just horrible. The football, though, like, it's almost, you kind of have to think that they will, I mean, if there's any possible way of playing the game, they're going to want to play the game. If there's any possible way of getting these players back on the field because they need them, like, they're going to try to do it. I think much more than the baseball had to, because in baseball you have other players that can substitute and you have the ability to make up games. I'm excited about the tickets for the World Series. I'm not going to get to go there, obviously, but they're going to do 11,500 tickets for the games with 10,550 fans spread throughout the ballpark and 950 of them in suites. Okay. The Rangers opened their $1.2 billion ballpark this season, but did not have the ability to sell tickets during the 30-game home schedule. So the tickets for all 7 games of each series will go on sale Tuesday, October 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern at MLB.com and TexasRangers.com. Game 1 of the National League Championship Series on October 12th will be the first time fans will be able to attend a game at Globe Life Field, and the first time fans can attend any game during the 2020 season. The 116th World Series begins on October 20th. Globe Life Field will host the first neutral site World Series in modern baseball history. Could this become a thing? You know, home field advantage, it turns out, is not really that big of a deal. Only, I think, less than half of the games are won with home field advantage in baseball. So the fact that they're going to play at a neutral site, wait. The World Series begins on October 20th. Globe Life Field will, yes, the first neutral site World Series in modern baseball history. And the fans, of course, are going to be subject to COVID-related rules and restrictions. The tickets sold in pod areas with social distancing. No tickets are sold close to the field. You can't get close to the players. You have to wear masks. The state of Texas is currently permitting up to 50% capacity. There's still a lot of cases of COVID. Do not become complacent with the COVID, especially here in New York. I think it's easy to become complacent because we have been over the massive thing that happened here for a long time. We were the first to get it. We were the first. We have like 5 times more dead than any state. I think a lot of, well, whatever the reason that that's happening, New York is doing very well. You're still seeing cases like in our county, Suffolk County, we see over 100 cases, new cases every day, but nobody's dying. That's great news. Hopefully that will continue, but because people are getting it, it's not going away. Every day there's 50,000 new cases. Every day there's 40,000 new cases all, across the country. The good thing is that people are not dying because we're learning how to treat it, and we're not putting people in nursing homes that are sick. Like who would come up with that brilliant idea? I'm sorry. I mean, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, it's weird that you would put sick people into a place where the most vulnerable population is. When you have like ships, you have Navy ships, you have the whole Javits Center was set up with beds and stuff. None of it got used. It's odd. It's very odd. Okay. And I mean, I'm not going to even go there. I don't think that Cuomo would do that on purpose. I really don't. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of his policies, but I don't think he's a horrible guy. I don't think he's like, you would have to just be evil to do that. I don't think that's the case. Somebody dropped the ball in that case, but Florida, they're talking about they're opening up Florida no matter what. Their governor even like passed a new law that says that nobody can post limits on whether or not you have to wear a mask. Nobody can post limits on how many people you can have in your restaurant. That's what he said. And this is at a time where Florida is having probably the most deaths in the country. They have more than the other states are. They have the most new case. No, they either have the most new cases or the most deaths. Even though the deaths going down, they're still the highest in the country. So it's kind of odd that Florida has decided that they're going to open completely. But one day we'll be able to look back at this and say, like, what measures actually worked and what really, in the long run, it really ended up the same as it, whether or not you locked down the economy or not, like whether or not you stayed home and whether or not you shut down all the restaurants and stuff. Nobody really knows. we can only just go by what we see, like our own numbers. The only two countries that really had that we could learn from that were honest about their reporting at the beginning was Spain and Italy, and that the United States was right there. So like we had nothing to go by. I just think that we definitely are over the bad side because of the fact that we can treat this virus at this point. For the most part, you can be treated, even though it's still scary. And Lenny's not going to ever leave the house again, even though that's not true. But I mean, the White House, Trump got COVID, Melania got COVID, Kellyanne Conway has COVID. I think that Chris Christie's probably got COVID. Giuliani probably has it. Everybody that was in this debate prep team is probably COVID positive, which shows that this does, it's still very infectious, it's like contagious. And Trump was not wearing masks, and none of those people in that office were like in that room were wearing masks. So because of that, it's probably safe to say that masks do work, okay, to at least a point. And so it's like you gotta wear a mask when you're around other people. You just have to. If you're not, I mean, as soon as I get out of the grocery store, my mask is off. Like I'm loading my car, my mask is off. I do not want to wear my mask if I'm pumping gas by myself, and you don't need to be coming near me anyway, right? That's a great way to keep people from coming near you. But when you go into a store or you go and you're going to have to be around other people, to not wear a mask is just like, it's stupid. And it's like Trump is proving that masks, well, he's not, I mean, we don't know definitively, but okay, you can safely say that masks are probably a good idea because the people wearing masks aren't getting sick. And so there you go. We learn as we go. Timmy, where's Timmy? There's no, never mind. I'm not going to say it. So beautiful PNC Park right there. That's PNC. It looks like the background is amazing. It just looks like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the ride at Disneyland, The Small World, where it's almost like it's not even a real background. It's everything. When we went to Pittsburgh, the parking was $10. Okay. The parking was $10, and it was like right across the street from the ballpark. When you walk over to the ballpark, the streets are cobblestones. Do you see that bridge in the back, that yellow bridge? The streets look like they've been swept, like with the broom, and it just, there's no trash. Pittsburgh is one of the most beautiful cities that I've been to, for sure. And I never would have imagined that Pittsburgh, because when you think of Pittsburgh, like, well, I'm ignorant. When I had never been to Pittsburgh, I always used to just think of the Pittsburgh as like this, you know, the Steelers, and like, you kind of think of it like, I don't know how to explain it. It definitely did not think of it as like the one city in the country that has the most farmers markets. They do. They have the most farmers market. They have like 6 different boroughs in Pittsburgh that they're all like different from each other. And some of them are like really old school homes and stuff. And the other ones are like new and modern. There's a college right in the city there. And it's just, you can eat. There's lots of water to sit like at a restaurant and look at the water. The people are friendly there. The tickets to the game were like $40 right behind home plate. We went to that game. I will never forget it. We met this family that was sitting right next to us. They had season tickets right behind home plate. The kid was, I would say the kid was like 7 or 8 that I was talking to. And his favorite player was Neil Walker. It was like, Neil Walker, why don't you like McCutcheon? Or, you know, I can't even remember who else was on the team. Probably Garrett Cole was on the team at the time. But when you go there, the tickets are cheap. The parking is cheap. The people are friendly. They're happy. They're nice. The sky is blue. It's like Pittsburgh is one of the country's best kept secrets. Okay, Rottweiler stopped to go pee in Pittsburgh, and no bathroom were open to people. So he ended up at the casino instead. Why don't you just pee outside? Why do you have to? Seriously, you're the only dude that needs a bathroom, I guess, because if you have to go pee and you're a dude, it's much easier to take a whiz anywhere if you're a guy. That's for sure. How is it going, Rottweiler, with you're going to be on, I mean, how's your election going? Rottweiler is running to be on the school board in his hometown of San Francisco suburbs. How's that going for you? Are you enjoying this? What's it called? Campaign trail. Are you enjoying the campaign trail? I think that, Neil Walker, he was a fan favorite for sure, even though he wasn't that good. He was just, this kid loved him. Also, the beers were cheap at the park. And you go there for the first time, you get to go to this room. Like Fenway Park has this too, and I'm sure most ballparks do. But they have an area where you can go and you get like a pin and something. You get like a little piece of, you get like a little trinket or whatever, like the dirt from third base or something. Half Moon Bay, yes. Okay, you're enjoying it. Good. I'm sure Elizabeth is out there with you, working right alongside, and that's great. So when is the election? Moving on now, he says. Moving on now. Rottweiler, moving on. Okay. What else do we have? So I have some crazy stats. In the 6th inning on Thursday, the Padres were 4 innings away from getting swept by the Cardinals in the wild card series. On Thursday, they were 4 innings away from getting swept. Only twice in their 52-season history had the Padres ever hit 5 home runs in any postseason series, and on Thursday, they hit 5 in a stretch of 15 at-bats between the 6th and the 8th inning. 5 homers, 9 runs, and won the game 11-9. The Padres had never come from 4 runs behind to win any postseason game in their history. The Cardinals hadn't lost a game that they led by 4+ runs since Game 4 of the 1982 World Series, and that was over. Knocked on 100 doors, my goodness. Okay, so you knock on doors. Do they answer? For the most part, going against the establishment is always a good idea. That's probably a good way to get votes for sure. I just wish you so much luck. I think you'd be great for, I just think you're perfect for this. And I really, if I was there, I would definitely vote for you. I'm sure Howard Bender will vote for you. And so over the last 8 seasons, counting the postseason, the Cardinals had won their last 139 games in a row in which they scored at least 9 times. That's over. Wow, 139 games in a row in which they had, whenever they had 9 runs, they won 139 games in a row. These little tidbits that I get that I found through Lenny because he found Sarah Langs on Twitter. Sarah Langs with Langs, and she is one of the best at coming up with tidbits. And maybe I'm letting Lenny's secret out of the bag right now, but I think, if you find these types of people, you should share for sure. Come on, pee in the bushes like a real man, for sure. Can you imagine, though, he's running for school board and he shouldn't be peeing in public because that would be bad. Like, here's this guy running for office and, like, opposition research would figure out, they would be taking pictures in the bushes of him and they would say, this guy can't be this because he pees in the bushes. Okay, so it's probably good he doesn't. Let's see, Cal Ripken Jr., A-Rod, Barry Larkin, and Derek Jeter never hit 2 home runs in a postseason game, but Fernando Tatis Jr. hit 2 home runs in 2 innings, the 6th and the 7th in this game. He's the 2nd youngest shortstop and 3rd youngest player ever to hit 2 home runs in a postseason baseball game. He's 21 years old. His future is bright. His bat flip, okay, I'm sorry, if you don't do a bat flip after your 2nd home run at 21 years old in the postseason, like you're nothing if you don't do it. You have to do it. Come on, man. How do you not do it? How do you not bat flip? Will Myers got so inspired by that show that he hit 2 home runs in 2 innings himself. Only one other set of teammates has ever hit 2 homers or more in the same postseason game. That's Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. Okay, but that isn't even the wild and weird part. This is from, right now, I think this is from Jason Stark. As Yes Network's James Smith tweeted, Ruth and Gehrig did it in Game 3 of the 1932 World Series, which means their act was part of the same legendary game in which Ruth called his shot, but he didn't do a bat flip after he called it. So, I don't know. Tatis is the most electrifying player in the game right now. I'm not even interested in debating that. This is not my words. I'm reading this from the notes that I have from Jason Stark, I believe. So hold those comments. And the Padres are the most charismatic team still playing baseball in this Oktoberfest. I agree 100%. That I just really do agree. Sarah Langs also says that. So like she said something like, if you don't get excited watching the Padres play right now, then I don't know what to say because something's wrong. If Dodger fan, that would be the only reason why you wouldn't like the Padres. But the Padres are going to give the Dodgers a run for their money. I believe that, definitely, especially if they don't hit. That Justin Turner had 2 home runs all season until I benched him in the last week, and he hit 2 more home runs. But Justin Turner has been a big disappointment. Max Muncy hasn't been great. 2 guys that are pretty clutch for the Dodgers. And Bellinger, he started hitting more at the end, but I think he's half hurt, and the Dodgers are in for a struggle right now. It'll be exciting. So a few years ago, when baseball told us that October was a land of hope and dreams, somebody forgot to mention that some of those dreams are nightmares. The Braves and A's could tell you all about it. But you know what dreams and nightmares have in common? Sooner or later, you wake up. So it was very uplifting to hear the alarms go off in both Atlanta and Oakland on Thursday. The Braves in 2001, they were something special. It says that they were the Braves of Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, and Chipper Jones. And even if they didn't win the World Series every year, they mostly crushed it against their own league in October. And they always were placing some, obviously, they were always making it to October. When John Burkett beat the Astros to close out a sweep of the 2001 National League Division Series, that felt like business as usual, and that made it 9 times in the Braves' last 11 trips to the postseason that they had won at least one series. And then it was going to be another 19 years before they won another one. Crazy. They finished the sweep of the Reds. The Reds, such good pitching. Their hitting, I think, is okay, but they can't run. They have Castellanos hits. Okay, the guy's a great hitter, but he can't play defense, and he isn't going to steal bases. Mike Moustakas isn't going to steal bases. These hitters were I think that they got caught stealing twice. So just like little mistakes on the base paths were the nemesis of the Reds. They lost, the Braves lost 7 straight potential clinchers. The hardest part of going all those years without winning a series is that the Braves could have won so many of them. They played 7 postseason games in that time, and they could have clinched 5 different series, and they lost all 7. So it wasn't like they got swept. It was like they were down to the last game, and they kept getting beat. So the combined score of those 7 messy losses, would you believe, is 52-16. Reminds me of the Cubbies. Okay, that reminds me of the Cubbies. They had lost 9 postseason series in a row, and if you count the wild card games, then it make it 10 postseason series in a row, kind of like the Twins. But the Twins can't even win a game, so much less a series. Okay. 27 of the other 29 teams in baseball won at least one round of the playoffs. In between rounds, the Braves won. The only 2 exceptions are the Reds, of course, and the Padres. The Cardinals won 16 rounds, the Yankees 15, the Red Sox 14, the Giants 13, the Astros 11, and even the Royals won 6. So in all that time, the Braves got 0. And now, so the postseason is exciting for the A's, the Braves, the Padres, and who else is still in it that's like not normally there? Because the Dodgers are always there. The Yankees are always there. You hope it's New York versus LA. Why would you say that? We're rooting for the Padres right now. I am going to root for the Padres. So, okay, we can root against each other. Luke Voigt. Oh boy. So Luke Voigt, how much are you paying for Luke Voigt next year? You're already paying a lot of money for Flaherty that you shouldn't pay, in my opinion. And now you're going to go for Voigt too, along with it. Voigt had the most home runs in baseball this year. He's the only one to get 20 home runs. Okay. And is that going to continue? Like Voigt, it seems like he has been showing potential for the last couple of years, and I don't think that he really got a chance to play full time until this season because the Yankees are just stacked. Okay, but is he going to get full time now? Is he average it out over a full season, and that would have been 60 home runs, 66 home runs, I believe. I think he hit 22. Is it possible? I mean, somebody's got to do it on the Yankees because Stanton's only hit like 4 home runs since he became a Yankee. Someone's got to hit the home runs. Oh, no, you traded away Bauer last offseason? You should never do that. I almost gave up on him. I was so close to saying I'm just not going to draft Bauer anymore. But I really needed something to be excited about. And it is exciting to watch him pitch and, to root for somebody like that. Good idea. Don't trade away Acuna, even though he's is he injury prone? Is he becoming an injury prone type of guy? Luis Robert, I wouldn't trade him away. Alec Bohm. Okay, I'm the machine. Whatever. Why? Because I go too long? What else am I going to do? I could go outside and do yard work. I could do some laundry. None of that sounds fun to me. You just probably need something. Okay. Let me read through some more tidbits. The A's were in the midst of one of the most mind-boggling October funks of all time until they outlasted the White Sox on Thursday. They'd somehow lost 9 winner-take-all postseason games in a row. They lost 3 of those to the Yankees and 2 to the Tigers and 1 each to the Red Sox, Twins, Royals, and Rays. The Rays, I think, could be the Rays and the Yankees. That's who play. Okay, the Rays are going to play the Yankees, and the Rays have never, I don't think they've ever played each other in a series in the postseason. I don't think they've ever faced each other. The Tampa Bay Rays could have won the World Series last year had it not been for Houston cheaters. Because I remember watching the postseason. It was Houston against Tampa for the division series, the championship division part. It was the Houston against the Rays, and the Rays were sneaky good. Their pitching was very good, as always. The Rays always has good. Rob asks that you send me the $50 from the Yahoo League. Oh, okay. Absolutely. I forgot that it was even a paid league, and I will be happy to send it. Where do I send it? I'll send it in PayPal, so tell me what email. I think, do I already have the email? Because I actually paid for the GOAT League. I didn't pay a lot of attention to that league, but I did check on it every once in a while. That was the league where you didn't have any bench spots, and the only time you could really move people around is if you had an injured player, which I tried to do. But it was my only team that I had at Yahoo. And that makes it really difficult to get there because by the time I go to Yahoo, I've already been to Fantrax, on Roto. I've been to RT Sports a million times. I've been to ESPN, and I would love to be able to consolidate leagues. I've been to NFBC website. I have 2 leagues there. That's why I wish that, obviously it's impossible to get all your leagues at the same website, but it becomes a nuisance. Good job getting second place, so you get some money. I will send it to the same guy. I don't know. We'll talk after, but I do like the GOAT League. We played in the GOAT League. I think it's a great idea, especially the fact that you can do it in the off season because you draft players. You make up one team, you get a regular size fantasy team with like 9 pitchers and 5 outfielders or whatever it is. You have a set roster and you pick players between, in this particular one, we picked players between 1984 and current. And when you pick the player, you also pick the stats that you want to go along with that player. So, you could pick 1999 Pedro Martinez or whatever. It was a very fun league. There's so many good hitters and there's so many like stolen bases, so many home runs, so many like it actually, I feel like I'm a lot smarter now. I feel like I learned a lot about players that I wasn't familiar with because I wasn't around when they were playing, but started to learn more players and see like Bob Gibson, what, his best year. That year that 1968, he wasn't in this league. But Pedro was great. There's some pitchers in there that were doing things that nobody's doing now and will never do again. So that was a fun league because once the draft is over, the league is over, right? And so it comes down to like the last round, and you would think that, okay, I'm just going to keep track of the stats. I'm going to know exactly what I need to make up for and which category. It was just a regular roto league. So like, okay, what do I need to do in stolen bases? What do I need to do? And everybody is so close, like by the hair of a chinny chin chin. And I really tried hard to keep a strategy, which was to keep my utility spot open at the end, to keep the utility spot open so that no matter what I needed to make up for, like what category could I gain points in, then I could focus on that rather than having to draft like a catcher or a second baseman. But I just couldn't, like, Rottweiler won that league, right? Didn't you win that league? If you didn't, you came in second, and that was fun. I would love to play that again, and I'll pay the $50 after my show today. Absolutely. Okay, a few more tidbits. So it has it happened in the NBA? Okay. It was the longest streak in baseball history that we're talking about the Oakland A's and how they lost all these games. They had lost 9 winner-take-all postseason games in a row. Okay. It was the longest streak in baseball history. Has it happened in the NBA? It has. The Sports Bureau tells us that Syracuse Nats and Philadelphia 76ers franchise once lost 11 winner-take-all games in a row between 1956 and 1976. Has it happened in the NHL? It did. Okay, that one was the New York Rangers, who managed to lose 10 winner-take-all games in a row from 1937 to 1984. So Oakland's not alone. Before the A's finally broke this streak on Thursday, they hadn't won a winner-take-all game since Ken Holtzman beat the Mets in Game 7 of the 1973 World Series. 1973, that's like 50 years ago. So that's good. These little tidbits are great. 583 different players made it to home plate at least once in an Oakland A's uniform. 431 different pitchers threw a pitch for them, and 16 different men managed a game for them. That was in between the time that they were losing all these games. No drought lasts forever. That's the point. No drought lasts forever. Cubbies know this, but they might never win again if they can't hit in the postseason. The Cubbies have just been horrible. Did they start being horrible after they lost Joe Maddon? I mean, I love David Ross, okay? And I think that he's going to be an excellent manager for sure. And I have no question that he was the right choice for the Cubbies. But it seems like as soon as Maddon left the Cubbies, maybe it was before he left. I don't know. They stopped hitting after they won the World Series. So I don't think that Rizzo's happy there. I don't think Bryant is happy there. Bryant is especially not happy there because, he feels like they gypped him out of service time, which a lot of players do. And then he took him to court and he lost. Just giving the teams all the power in the world to continue to do that to youngsters. And something's got to give, because we're going back to the books. We're going back to the arguing table, the debate table, whatever you want to call it. It's the Players Association against the teams. What happened at the beginning of this season kind of speaks volumes as to the relationship that they have, and this the agreement that they have. It's going to have to be redone. Now, what are they going to do? They already are saying they want to get rid of minor league teams, a bunch of them. Although, in the defense of MLB, there's so many minor league teams. Like, every team has like 4 or 5 minor league teams. It's totally unnecessary. Although I love that for the communities, I just think that, getting rid of a couple that aren't doing well, getting rid of, every area is still going to have several minor league levels, right? But I don't think that Major League Baseball even wants that. I think that they want to completely sever ties and come up with a whole new way to promote rookies and prospects, because I don't really know exactly why. Maybe, well, it all comes down to money. I mean, answer to everything is always money, probably. Okay. So, the Reds. 22 zeros. That's what 22 zeros looks like. It's like all these zeros, okay, one after the other. And it isn't every October that you see that many zeros strung together, okay? In fact, it isn't any October until now. No team had ever scored 0 runs over an entire postseason series, but thanks to the Reds and their crappy, they run the bases like they're 50, okay? They run the bases like Lenny and me run the bases. It's bad. So anyway, the Reds did it. There had been no such thing as a best of 3 postseason series before this week, but it's still incredibly hard to do. The Reds' 22 innings in a row without scoring were the most in history at the start of any postseason, breaking a record that had stood for 99 years. That was 1921. Goldie Raps, New York Giants, held the old record of 20 in a row, 20 innings without scoring a run in the postseason. The Reds' totals in this series, no runs and 28 strikeouts. So the Reds have played 21,150 games in franchise history. And how many times in any of those games had they played back-to-back games in which they totaled 0 runs and 28 strikeouts? 0. Okay? The Reds got shut out in back-to-back postseason games by a team that finished dead last in its league in starting pitching ERA. They have a starting pitching ERA of 5.51, and they couldn't score a run against them. They just couldn't score a run. That's it, you guys. Okay, one more. Thursday's Game 5 duel in Oakland. The winning team, the A's, had 8 pitchers. 17 pitchers is coming up right here. The losing team, the White Sox, 9 pitchers. 8 pitchers, and they won. How often do you see a team use 8 pitchers in a 9-inning postseason game and still win? We only saw, we talked about this earlier from Sarah Lang's tweet, which was only 2, and it was both the Padres. I'm pretty sure that's what we decided. The Padres-Cardinals game, the Padres used 9 on Thursday, and they won. And then they used 9 on Friday. That's crazy. Okay, we already talked about the 17 pitchers. Neither starter even made it through the 2nd inning. Well, obviously, because how else are you going to get that many pitchers into that many innings? It was a win or go home postseason baseball game, and neither starting pitcher made it through the 2nd inning. Dane Dunning lasted 2 outs. Okay, Mike Fiers lasted 5 outs. How many postseason winner-take-all games have there ever been in which you couldn't find either starter making it through the 2nd inning? And that would be none. Oh, no. The White Sox had 1 pitcher get more than 4 outs. Bobby Jenks. Do you remember him? I vaguely remember him. Oh, they're talking about the Red Sox, Rick Renteria, okay, he used 3 pitchers by the 2nd inning and 4 pitchers by the 3rd inning and 6 pitchers by the 4th inning. Oh, that's pretty funny. He managed with his hair on fire, and everyone else's too. I remember hearing that term about, I don't know if it was about Renteria or not, but I remember hearing that term right about then. So a lot of stuff happens in 13 hours of postseason baseball. There's nowhere to put half of it. So here comes 5 bonus wild and weird feats from another long day of baseball. Liam Hendriks. Okay, the A's closer. He threw 49 pitches for the A's on Wednesday. Wow, 49 pitches. And then he came back to save on Thursday. I mean, I don't know why that's a heroic thing, why that's a huge, big deal that you pitch 49 pitches, you throw 49 pitches, and it's a big deal that you can come back and throw again the next day. So weak, okay? Anyway, how many pitchers have ever thrown 49 pitches in one postseason game and then came back into the next game and earned a save? I mean, if we're going back to where pitchers they did have some stamina. He says it goes back to 1988. Nobody, okay, how many have done it in any of those 33 seasons, according to our friends at Stats? 0 since 1988. Even in the regular season, just 2 pitchers have done that in this century, okay? Tampa Bay's Andy Sonnenstein did it in June of 2010. And I don't know who the other one is. It doesn't say. Liam Hendriks, I guess. Ramiro Mendoza, New York Yankees, 2001, for April 18th and 19th. I don't even remember that guy. Okay. Cheers to Yachty. You got to give love to Yachty Ermelini. He's a free agent next year, I think. Is he going to come back? He could just retire now, but he still plays well. Defensively, he's good. You could see his defense skills like getting a little bit, they're going down a little bit, but Yachty is such a clutch. He's so important to the pitching staff. He's so important to the team. And yesterday when he cried, it was like, makes me want to cry too. The Cardinals catcher played in his 100th postseason game. Can you imagine? 100th, game 100 in the postseason. And you might want to know that only 5 other players in history have played in that many postseason games. Guess who they are? I think it's pretty easy. It's a bunch of Yankees. And a Red Sox. It's a bunch of Yankees and a Red Sox. So start guessing. 5 other players in history have played in 100 postseason games. 5 hitters. Who are they? Stupid Yankees. Hey, dude. Oh, nice. I love it. Good job. Very good. I'm totally rooting for you. It'll be a while before another catcher even comes close to joining him, and Posada's on the list too. So Posada and Yachty are the only catchers that have appeared in 100 postseason games. Jorge Posada appeared in 125. And then by the time Molina was finished catching last night, no other active catcher will be within 50 of him. Next most is Buster Posey with 51. So Yachty got his hair idea from Carlos Martinez. I think they go to the same barber because they are both rolling around with white hair. And I have to say, if I was Carlos Martinez, I'd be dyeing it back because it certainly was bad luck for you this year. And that's the superstition, but whatever, he needs to do something. He was hurt, so I'm not going to hold it too much against him. Do you think that they're going to keep him stretched out as a starter again next year? Or it didn't really work out that well? I mean, he was great as a closer. He was also very good as a starter before they needed to put him in the bullpen. And that was out of necessity, not because he was demoted to the bullpen or anything like that. I mean, Carlos Martinez, I don't know. What do you guys think of Carlos Martinez in next year? Maybe I'll only draft him if his hair is the right color because he's out of control with their white hair. Okay. That's it. I'm good. Jason Stark at The Athletic. He writes these useless stat articles. He's written quite a few of them this year. I think that's because there's so many odd things going on. But if you do subscribe to The Athletic, that's a great article. A lot of athletic stuff is great. And I'm not getting paid by them. I'm just telling you the truth. I think they're great. And that's it, you guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on a Saturday morning. Hey, Mr. Rock, you got to go out there and get it done. I'm sure it's beautiful and sunny over there where you live. And good luck. That's all I got to say. And keep working hard. This guy's got like 15 things going on that he's doing. So keep checking in, buddy. Thanks for coming. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. No baseball. So I'm going to have to do yard work, and that's crappy. But Monday, see you then.